I dare y'all to name another rapper outside of like Drake or Ye with their influence on the sound that has influenced a whole bunch of rappers recently to sound like them.
I can't because all the rappers sound like each other. I don't know.
But you agree with him on Keef's
100%.
on how influential he is.
100%. That's not to be questioned.
Some of the most influential artists in hip hop. Chief Keef, definitely. I remember that. I remember like, that's another one too. I remember like they didn't, on the front, I had got it, and on the front, it wasn't even really like his picture with like everybody else. I remember that. Like I remember that, and we was looking through it, they had all the photos, but yeah, he definitely influential.
Just listen to a lot of like Chief Keef.
Word.
Yeah.
You love Chief Keef.
Yeah. Oh, bro, hard. That's like who I looked up to.
Chief Keef is an underrated rapper who don't get as much attention or as much credit as he deserves. You know, a lot of people built their sound off him, and every time he get on a song with any of them, he come correct.
To the topic of Chicago, I think that it's only right here at Complex Con that we shout out Chief Keef. What does that name mean to you?
Shout out Sosa. I mean, it's just crazy to see that somebody shooting a video with their friends on their block where they from could end up, you know, being on charts and going platinum and having songs with, you know, Kanye, you know what I'm saying, everything. Right. And me being the music head that I was and still am, I studied the stuff. Like, music been my life for a long time.
Although all rappers love to detail their impact on a landscape influence, it can really be a double-edged sword, particularly when it arrives at an accelerated rate, taking the music that you were making with conservative goals of a better life into a world that surpasses any horizons that you may be familiar with. So when his rap career began, at the humble age of 16, Chief Keef was a young Chicagoan that was making music geared towards him and his immediate circle. Courtesy of the success of his DIY approach and the viral nature his videos provided, Keef became the gatekeeper for Chicago drill, responsible for granting its producers and his fellow MCs safe passage into the wider industry. As Chi-Town beatmaker DJ L recalled, at the time, Keef and them were the reigning faction and everybody wanted to get down with them. And I was one of them. Chief Keef came down like a monsoon. There was no way to prepare for that kind of impact. Rising to prominence before he was old enough to graduate, Englewood Sosa set a new precedent for hip-hop success to arrive in an MC's formative years. Cited as influential by everyone from the YBN crew to Juice WRLD to Herbo, Chief's early momentum helped enshrine the business model that he stuck to for much of his career, releasing massive swaths of music through mixtapes and features, and then soon enough, the almighty soul would become a touchstone for countless stars that follow in his footsteps. I'm not gonna lie, I listened to a lot of Sosa, declared Lil Uzi Vert in 2016, before Lil Pump accredited his early inspiration to Keef and the whole different era he came with during his infamous summer with J. Cole. Even to the point where his famous catchphrase, "Get it," actually came from him listening to Chicago drill rappers every time they would start a track. However, admiration for Keef is not limited to the new generation. Notoriously cynical about modern hip-hop and its uniformity in sound, Snoop Dogg had no reservations about praising Keef, stating, "I see how you're moving, man. You're moving with precision. You understand what you're supposed to be doing, and you're catering to your fans." And in the years that have followed, many others have vied for the affections of that same fanbase, having once suggested that he was retiring in the face of too many sound-alikes. Keef's slang, sound, and even his trademark, ad-lib-infused style has been assimilated into the wider culture. Believing that fans loved him for creating mumble, Sosa is acutely aware of his impact. "I'm really out here having an influence on the vibes of the new, upcoming rappers. It's cool though, I want to keep doing that, keep influencing," he told XXL in 2017. "I came with Filthy Rich. They look at me as a person and where I came from and see it's real and I'm so young. This is like, if he can do it, they can do it." But in recent years, so much of the discourse surrounding Keef is fixated on the past, rendering both his present and future as an afterthought. Dwarfed in the shadow of his early young chop-assisted hits like I Don't Like and Love Sosa, Keef's inability to re-enter the lofty atmosphere of his hits has made him feel like a heritage act before his time, more commonly brought into the news cycle when paired with another high-profile figure or if he's incurred another run-in with the law. Or, much to Keef's annoyance, due to his previous beef with 6ix9ine, where he'd once claimed that it just got better and bigger after being dropped from Interscope, his real-life trajectory has differed from this confident, overly simplistic analysis of the situation. But loved and revered as he is, we've even now reached a grim fork in the road where even dedicated Glow Gang subreddits have rationalized his doom, making his bars on Gucci Mane's Don't Lose the Load into a disheartening meme. Now, after he's weathered errant recording contracts, paternity disputes, and more, Kanye's proclamation of "they steal your whole sound, that's a soundbite" on the Don't Like remix has come to represent a larger analysis of Keef's entire career, more so than his star-studded take on his signature track suggested. Rather than being given his flowers, Sosa has been cascading down the ranks to become a footnote in the modern game. Even in recent weeks, his decision to actively share Spotify's curated best of Chief Keef playlist subliminally suggests that his days at the pinnacle of the game have elapsed. By posting retrospectively, Sosa suggests, consciously or otherwise, that the best is behind him. But then again, his intentions have never been the easiest to discern, led in large part by the impulsiveness that comes with being a young man in an industry that continues to shift and evolve. Misunderstood since the days of Love Sosa, when he had the famous soundbite in the beginning of the song that said, "People in school telling me Chief Keef ain't bout this, Chief Keef ain't bout that," he's eventually run into the roadblock that his fellow originators have faced. As the first of his kind, there were no case studies for him to follow. Stalked by a lengthy rap sheet, the momentum that Keef breathed into Chi-Town's drill movement left him largely condemned by his own community. "City officials just be hating," he told Billboard after his concerts were canceled. "They don't want to see a young black man be successful and try to do something good." Vilified by his home, his manager Idris Dykes came to his defense, but in doing so, explained part of the reason why Keef has had to contend with the lifestyle that has been an integral part of his lyrical content even when his star grew. "These problems were here way before Chief Keef was popular," he said. "Keef is a product of the inner city. It's an endless cycle and it's set up that way." As his shows were shut down to the extent that even hologram performances were outlawed, he'd eventually moved to LA in an attempt to outrun the constraints of his hometown, saying, "I got away from all that unnecessary trouble. It's better out here in LA. I like living out here. I think it improved me, it changed me, and it inspired me to go somewhere bigger." But as has been the case throughout Sosa's career, he was plagued by yet another false start, preventing him from recapturing the momentum that had once catapulted him into the mainstream. After Interscope emerged victorious from the bidding war for Keef's services, the middling returns of Finally Rich, and its peak at 29 on the Hot 100, represented a faltering attempt to transition from his creativity and commercially independent space to something more corporately underpinned. As he branched out into art collecting and leaning into his vices, that debut's album title took on a new and more untoward meaning. Now that he is finally wealthy, it's felt as though he's taken his foot off the gas, relinquishing the control of hip-hop's future to other willing successors. As a result, number 29 would seem like a resounding success in comparison to the peak of 131 that his next charting effort, Bank 3, would achieve 2 years down the line. A project which, along with its sequel, would arrive during his time under the wayward guidance of Film On. Ran by Alki David, the architect behind the ill-intentioned DMX vs. George Zimmerman celebrity boxing match, the Greek entrepreneur was intrigued by the fact that Keef was one of the rare independent artists with a big following. Upon further inspection, signing Keef seemed exploitative at best, registering as a conscious effort to turn controversy into cash when Alki boasted about how his new business associate went to jail, waved a gun at a cop. He's like a crazy person. Attempting to harness Keef's energy for their gain rather than his own, it wouldn't take long before a rift would arise and Sosa's contract would suspend in November of 2015. Here, David's frustration boiled over, leading him to vent his frustrations over Keef, limiting his appeal to a wider audience, and I'm not saying he should sell out, just be more prolific. Far from an isolated incident, a lack of foresight has been a persistent thorn in Keef's side. At times focused to a fault, this is seen as his dismissal of a groundbreaking Apple Music deal that would have placed them at the forefront of their streaming revolution. Larry called me and said, "You're gonna be the first artist on Apple Music." And I turned it down, he told XXL in 2017, because, I just didn't do it. Instead, the accolade went to Chance the Rapper, helping to bring his fellow Chicagoan to a peak of his powers while remaining fiercely self-contained, just as Keef could have and should have been. Existing within a whirlwind, the chaos that surrounds Keef's career has rendered him incapable of capturing lightning in a bottle with the same authority that he once did. As a result, 2014's instant classic Finito may have sounded like a new beginning, but it has grown to represent the last moment where Sosa was on the path to the world domination that he'd once had within his grasp. Impeded from becoming the superstar that the majors once envisioned him as, it required the assistance of modern-day phenomenon Lil Uzi Vert to obtain his highest Hot 100 charting hit ever earlier this year. Peaking at number 19, it's hard to believe that a catchy, but no less inconsequential track such as Kobe Bean is what elevated him into the public eye to a greater degree than anything he's done of his own accord in recent years. Alluding to a serious disparity between Keef's numbers and his perceived influence, his diminishing presence on the front lines would also leave wiggle room for a new hotbed of American drill to arise. Entering the pathway that Keef and fellow New Yorker Bobby Shmurda had cleared up for him, Pop Smoke's Welcome to the Party became Don't Like for a generation that may have been in their infancy as a rap lover when Keef and Young Chop were at the peak of their powers. Now, as Fabio Foreign and Jay Critch pick up their fallen comrade's baton, it feels as though the universe that Keef built is once again expanding without his consent. Spoken about in nostalgic tones before his career has truly ran its course, the goodwill that Keef has among the community means that if he wanted to make a blockbuster project that reasserted him as a force to be reckoned with, he technically could. The real question is whether the hunger for more still exists within him, or if Keef will continue to familiarize himself with the past tense rather than the present. This has been a HipHopMadness original. Make sure to stay tuned and stay up to date with everything we got going on by hitting that subscribe button and notification bell. Oh, and don't forget to follow us on Instagram at HipHopMadness and join the movement.